Welcome to Cornerstone Today. This is a daily moment in the Word designed to help you start your day grounded, steady, and focused on what matters most. Each weekday morning we'll open Scripture together, seeking clarity, strength, and hope for the day ahead. This is about learning to walk with Jesus in real life, right where you are. Let's begin today in the Word. Good morning and welcome to Cornerstone Today. Matthew Allen here on this beautiful Thursday morning here in early April. I am just thrilled to able to start our day together today in the Word like we always do. Today we're in Matthew chapter 2. We're going to be finishing up the chapter here today as we talk about when God says, run. Have you ever had a moment where everything seemed fine? And then it wasn't. One day you're settled, you've got a roof, you've got a routine, and a sense of what tomorrow looks like. And then something shifts. You get a phone call, a diagnosis, a door that closes without warning, and suddenly you're moving. Not because you chose to, but because you had to. And that is where we find Joseph and Mary at the start of Matthew chapter 2 and verse 13. The Magi have just left. The gifts are still in the house. And in the middle of the night, an angel shows up with a message that doesn't leave room for debate. Get up, take the child and his mother, flee to Egypt. There's no explanation to them of how long. There's no promise if it'll be easy. Just run. Here's the text. When they had gone, an angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream. Get up, he said. Take the child and his mother and escape to Egypt. Stay there until I tell you, for Herod is going to search for the child to kill him. So he got up, took the child and his mother during the night, and left for Egypt. So there's no questions. There's no negotiation. There's no, let me pray about this for a couple of weeks. Joseph just gets up, gets his family up in the dark, and they leave. Now that kind of immediate obedience is easy to read in the past tense. But I want you to think for a moment about what this cost. Joseph had a life in Bethlehem. He had a trade, he had everything familiar, and he walks away from all of it in the middle of the night because God said so. Now, there is something quietly heroic about that, and something worth our putting our time into thinking about. Because I don't think most of us move like that. We deliberate, we weigh out our options, and we wait for more information. Joseph just went. And so Matthew tells us the story that they stayed in Egypt until Herod died, and then he connects this to an Old Testament text. And so what was fulfilled was what the Lord had said through the prophet, "Out of Egypt I called my son." So that quote comes to us from Hosea chapter 11 and verse 1. And in its original context, Hosea is talking about Israel. And God is looking back at the Exodus, recalling how he had brought his people out of Egypt as a nation. It's really not written as a prediction of the Messiah. So what is Matthew doing? Well, he is showing us that Jesus is the true Israel. Every defining moment of Israel's story, the flight to Egypt, the return, the wilderness, the law, Jesus is going to walk through all of it. Not because he failed the way that Israel did, but because he's fulfilling everything that Israel was meant to be. Matthew is not misquoting Hosea. He's making a theological point that runs throughout the entire gospel. Jesus doesn't just fulfill specific predictions. He recapitulates the entire story of God's people and gets it right. And then we hit what may be the hardest and most difficult part of this chapter, verses 16 through 18. When Herod realizes that the Magi have outsmarted him and they've gone home a very different way and they're not coming back to report, he is furious. And he orders the execution of every boy 2 years old and under in Bethlehem and all the surrounding region. Now, Matthew doesn't soften it. He doesn't push past it. He names it for what it is. Notice, a voice is heard in Ramah, weeping and great mourning, Rachel weeping for her children and refusing to be comforted because they are no more. Well, who's Rachel? Rachel was the matriarch that was buried near Bethlehem. Jeremiah used her image to describe Israel's grief during the Babylonian exile, mothers watching their children being taken away. And Matthew is reaching back to that same image, and he says that this is that kind of grief. There's no explanation offered here. There's no tidy resolution. Matthew doesn't tell us why God allowed it. He just records it and lets the weight of it land. And really, that's honest. I mean, for anyone who's ever sat in a grief that had no explanation, this is something to think about. Now we go to verse 20. Get up, take the child and his mother, and go to the land of Israel, for those who are trying to take the child's life are dead. So here we go again. Joseph gets up, same attitude, same direction, same obedience, and he heads back toward Israel. But then he hears that Herod's son is ruling Judea. And he's warned again in a dream not to go there. So the family settles in Galilee instead, in a town called Nazareth. And then Matthew closes the chapter with one more prophetic connection. So was fulfilled what was said through the prophets, that he would be called a Nazarene. Now, there's no Old Testament passage specifically that says he'll be called a Nazarene. Most scholars think Matthew is pointing to the broader prophetic picture of the Messiah as someone lowly, overlooked, and from a region that didn't carry very much prestige at all. Nazareth was no one's idea of a royal hometown, which is really the point. The king arrives poor, he's displaced, he's a refugee, he's raised in a region that people look down upon, and yet he is the one that the Magi crossed the world to find. So here's what I take from Matthew 2:13-23. Following God does not always look like clarity. Sometimes it looks like a dream in the middle of the night that uproots everything. And sometimes it looks like exile, like waiting in a foreign place until you get the next instruction. And sometimes it looks like grief without any explanation. But Joseph moved when God said move, and he waited when God said wait, and he went where God said to go, even when the destination wasn't glamorous, even when the road was hard. And through all of it, the flight, the loss, the return, the obscure little town, God was writing a story bigger than anyone's family comfort. And that's still true. Wherever you are in the middle of right now, the uprooting, the waiting, the unexplained grief, you might be further inside this story than you realize. Think about how God will get you through. We just simply have to trust and put one forward in front of the other. So, thanks for being here this morning with us on Cornerstone Today. We will see you again tomorrow as we do our normal Friday meditation on the Lord's Supper. Looking forward to that. Of course, this Sunday, special day for many of us as we think back to the resurrection of Jesus Christ. We hope you can be with us on Sunday at Cornerstone. We'll see you tomorrow on Cornerstone Today. Have a great day, everyone. Thanks for spending these moments in the Word today. As you go, remember this: faithfulness is built one ordinary day at a time. Keep walking with Jesus. Keep listening. Keep trusting. God is at work all the time. Join us again every weekday morning for another moment of encouragement and truth here on Cornerstone Today.